the burn of running is not fun, but it didn't hurt nearly as bad as skiing. So when it happened, there's this kind of repulsion, this voice of quit that shows up that says, "Ooh, this is not good, this is not good." It's a gloomy Monday morning, and I am just getting back from recycling and listening to Gabor Mate, The Myth of Normal, his latest book. And there's so much good information in this book, and he and I align in so many ways, but a lot of what he presents now, getting towards the end of the book, is very simplistic and black and white. There's one problem and one solution. The problem, which he diagnoses quite well, toxic culture, although it's a bit simplistic. The solution, finding wholeness, regaining our whole nature, coming back to our authentic selves, which are buried and repressed underneath this modern toxic culture. Yeah, no, there is no authentic self lurking beneath your so-called wounds and traumas. There's adaptive learning. We are adaptive creatures as identities. An identity is a moldable structure in the brain, a moldable network that adapts to whatever circumstances it finds itself in. Now, if we remain an identity, then there is no wholeness, there is no healing. There's just stories of wholeness and stories of healing. But if we can step outside of identity, then we can be in a present moment without the need to reconcile a history, without the need to overcome something, without the need to heal something, but simply recognizing how we've been shaped, how we've been formed, and then working with it to the best of our ability, rather than trying to find some mythical place called wholeness that he thinks we should all find, finding authenticity. I don't believe in such a thing as authenticity. There's no data to support it, but it's such a wonderful, warm, snuggly idea. In reality, there's just, we're inside of our identity networks or we are outside. And the weather is nicer outside, so that's where I spend the vast majority of my time. And right now I'm going to spend some time editing last week's video. It is a chilly spring day. We got a hard frost at the house and come into the studio pretty early. Feeling the elliptical looming on the horizon, I discovered last night that I can't fix it. One of the metal shafts is bent, and then another part of it broke when I tried to disassemble it. So I might be able to salvage some of the parts and build a different kind of machine, but I don't think that device is savable. We will see, but in the meantime, no elliptical. Anyway, when I woke up, I can feel this kind of uncertainty in front of me. Switching over to running and doing the US Mountain Running Championships this weekend. I don't really feel ready or prepared for that. It feels alien to me, and it's so early in the year. Normally these races are in July. Not knowing what to do with the elliptical, just coming out of my taxes and all the effort and energy I put into that. Trying to reorganize my business. When you do your taxes, you get to see where you're hemorrhaging cash. And there's been a lot of hemorrhaging, even though I live an incredibly simple life. I buy a lot of equipment to keep my YouTube channel and my computer work going and coaching and whatnot. So, got to address that. But, yeah, I came in early because there's spinning in bed and then there's spinning in activity, and I'd rather spin in activity than spin in bed. I have a history of not being able to get out of bed because I can't see a way out. I can't see how I'm going to face the day, how I'm going to confront all the things in front of me. So what I have learned to do instead is just take steps, move, spin in the world, make things happen, take steps. as long as they're growth-oriented steps, as long as they're things that need to be done anyway, rather than things to distract yourself from the work that needs to be done. So all of my spinning is productive. It's just that it's not planned. So I'm going to go upstairs and do some unplanned spinning before I get into my coaching calls for the day. Coming down the old stage road after doing another test run for the U.S. Mountain Championships this coming Saturday. And I really didn't want to run today because it was kind of gloomy. It's in the 40s. And then it started to drizzle. But I was talking to a client, and then as we were finishing up the call, he said he was going to do something. And I said, I'm going to run up a mountain. And it just came out of my mouth. And I was like, oh, interesting. Okay, I guess I'm running up a mountain. So put a jacket on, went outside, and thought, ooh, it's kind of nippy. This is not fun weather. And it's drizzly. And then I started at the trailhead, and the drizzle picked up and turned more into rain. And yikes. And it's immediately uphill, climbing 2 miles. And there was nothing about it that was appealing. But it only took 40 seconds before I just got into the rhythm, and I found myself studying the rocks and then watching my feet maneuver deftly through the rocky terrain. This is all glaciated, so it's just rock everywhere. So, and then I found this too, which gave me something to hold in my hand, and I was spinning it as I was running. Anyway, it was so quick, that shift into I'm now attending to the trail and my feet are dancing and I'm going uphill, and all of the annoyance, the discomfort, the unwillingness, it just vanished and I was here. And then as I got to the halfway point where it gets steeper, I thought, oh, that's a Strava segment, the final mile. I wonder what I got. Let's find out. So I started picking up the pace and using my elliptical Bigfoot stride, really long out the back with a lot of glute extension. As I'm running, there was a voice in my head that says, this is really uncomfortable. You don't have to do this. You don't need to prove anything. It's okay if you slow down because this is really uncomfortable. But then as I listened to that voice, the athlete in me said, oh, there it is. There's the voice of quit. Now, why am I doing this? Why am I testing myself on this final mile? Because I want to see how much discomfort I can tolerate, because that's what mountain running is all about. It's not like road running, where you really don't feel it until, let's say, halfway through the race. And then especially the last third of the race, you really feel the discomfort. In a mountain race, it's pretty much instant. You just put yourself in that gear and you suffer. And a huge part of the training is stepping outside of the discomfort and not mentally suffering. I can be in physical discomfort, but I don't have to mentally suffer. That voice of quit is mental suffering. This is unacceptable. I can't do this. But I can. And I've done it hundreds of times. So I just told myself, it's okay. We're not here to test our legs. We're here to see if we're mentally ready to be in U.S. mountain running championships. Am I ready to tolerate the grind? So I went and I made it all the way to the top, and I think it was a really fast time. I'm guessing it's within my top 3 best times ever on this trail, which I've been running since, let's say, 2008. So when I was 40, up until the present, I have run this as a test. So if I can be in one of my top 3 times on that section, that's huge, considering that my training has been elliptical, Bigfoot on the treadmill, and skiing. Barely any running in the last 6 months. So it's useful to check in with all the different parts of you that are going to be in an event, whatever that event is. Anything that causes you discomfort It could be a race, it could be CrossFit, it could be writing a book, it could be doing your taxes, it could be giving a talk on stage. Whatever the pieces are that cause you to want to avoid it, break them apart, take a look at them one by one. How are my legs? Okay, my legs are good. How's my mind? Oh, I don't know. This is the thing we need to work on. Okay, got my mind good. I'm going. What's next? Uh-oh, my shoulders and arms. So what I discovered today is that I'm mentally ready. My legs are ready. My glutes are ready. But my shoulders, that I got to work on. So that's my weak link right now. And that's fine. That just means that I need to put more attention on shoulder work, which probably means more running-like activities to get my shoulders able to handle my now heavier arms for long periods of time. Cleaning up the old pasture, had another apple tree come down in a storm. So it broke about 20 feet off the ground, and apple trees are nasty to clean up. So little by little, I'm trimming off the branches. I'm gonna drag them to the brush pile. It is a very spring-like morning, and I am just finishing up The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate, and just did the review as well. That's going up on Patreon soon if you really want to know what I think, but it's a mix of really good, okay, and terrible. I'll just say that here. Now I got to figure out what I'm going to listen to next. Something that has been on my radar is a book called The Upside of Uncertainty. That title intrigues me because it's pretty much where I live, in the midst of uncertainty. So maybe I'll tune into that. I've got to do some work here in the studio for a little bit, check in with some clients, take a call, and then I'm going over to the Troy, New York area, about a 35-40 minute drive, to look at an elliptical to replace mine because I discovered I could not fix it. The metal shaft is actually broken, and it's beyond my ability to fix without welding equipment. So I found an elliptical that somebody is selling for 50 bucks. It is the model above the one I've been using, so the stride length or stroke length is a little bit longer, and the electronics actually function. Mine didn't. So I'm going to go check that out, and if it works, I'm going to get it for 50 bucks, bring it back, and then do an elliptical session here. I've been missing that. Not too much though. I'm trying to taper a bit for the US Mountain Running Championships on Saturday. So a little bit today, maybe, I don't know, 40, 45 minutes. Take it easy again tomorrow, and then run up a mountain on Saturday. I am the proud new owner of another elliptical machine. Same company as the one I was using, Eclipse. But instead of the HR 1100, this is the HR 2100, which is a much better machine than what I was using. This is a little bit bigger, but it's got a longer stride length. The electronics work, so I can actually increase or decrease the resistance, which is nice. It is whisper quiet. The other one made a bit of noise, which was a bit distracting to me. This allows me to just fall into a video on YouTube or watch a movie and not have to crank up the volume to hear over the elliptical noises. So super pumped. This is a huge relief because I was kind of stressed not having a way to move in the studio. The spin bike just wasn't doing it. It was hurting my knees, and I might actually get rid of it. I've never taken to the spin bike, probably because of my knees. So yeah, maybe it's time to let it go. If I'm not going to use it, I'm not going to use it. So I was a bad boy last night. I did not check for ticks before I went to bed, which is something that I would normally do from this time of year until November. I was doing some yard work yesterday, and I woke up with a mean, nasty embedded tick in my groin area. So I got to try to get that out, and it's really irritated around it. I don't know if I'm going to develop Lyme disease symptoms by tomorrow's race. I'm not sure what to do. I've only ever had small ticks embedded, but this is a full-size adult, and it does not want to come out. Taking a moment to enjoy the view, waiting for Bob Dion of Dion Snowshoes. We're going to have a walk and talk about how to revive the sport in New England. Now I'm thinking about going for a roller ski, which I haven't done since mid-September when I broke my thumb. I feel this avoidance. I love roller skiing, but there's this strong avoidance, so I'm gonna try to step myself slowly into clothing and then into boots and then out the door, and we will see what happens. But yeah, there's this fear in me. It's okay, just one step at a time. I see a little hunter. What are you hunting for, Mama? What you doing, Wolf? What you doing? Oh, sweet Wolf. You gonna give me some ticks? You gonna give me some ticks? Oh, yeah. Look at that cream filling, huh? Look at that cream filling. Yeah. Yeah. You're silly. Sweet little wolf. Sweet little wolf. One of the projects that I've been working on is creating an area to put in a little shed next to the parking area that I built last year. This was all Japanese knotweed, all the way over to here. And I dug it all out. This is a 3-foot deep hole, which we filled with gravel. So this is basically reclaimed from the knotweed, which is starting to come up. And this was a giant pile of dirt from this stuff where I dug out, and I've been slowly pushing the dirt back, and now I'm gonna level it out and build a shed there to store some things and just to give us a little privacy from the road as well. But this is one of the workouts that I do every day that I don't put on Strava, but I'll spend an, I don't know, hour to hour and a half every day shoveling. It is 7 a.m. race morning, and I'm stopping into the studio to pick up my massage gun, which I forgot to pack. And then I'm about to make the 2-hour drive to Lake Sunapee in New Hampshire. And I'm excited. It's interesting. I slept last night, which I think is the first time I've ever slept before a national championship. I'm always nervous, but now that I live in this experimental mode pretty much every day, all the time, I don't take it seriously. Maybe I'll do well, maybe I won't. It doesn't matter. It's an experiment. I'm there to collect data. I'm there to have an experience and meet people and, I don't know, share good times, share some suffering as well. But yeah, I have no nervousness at all, which is such a relief. I've spent so much time stressing about races in the past, and to just go to sleep and not care feels really good. And for breakfast, I had some oatmeal, a little bit of grape juice mixed with water, and now I've got some tea in the car, and that should be enough. It's just a 4-mile race. All uphill, but only 4 miles. Okay, I'll see you in New Hampshire. It's gonna be snowy today. Absolute cluster. It took me 45 minutes to get my number. There is a gigantic line over there. People are freezing. It's super chilly. And not everybody's gonna be able to get their numbers by the time the race starts. It's just a cluster. It's like they've never put on a race before. Anyway, I got here super early, and now I'm barely gonna have time to warm up. So, gonna work with what is, but they've made this very difficult for a lot of people. It's too bad. Running down the mountain post-race, and it's raining and I am frozen.
He's coming. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. I heard someone with better camera. Got some fun hardware today. Bronze medal in the 50 to 54, and then my team, CMS, or the Central Mass Striders. I scored on the open team, we won the US Championship. I scored on the 40 and over team, we won, and I scored on the over 50 team, which we won. So 3 golds and a bronze, not a bad score. I'm just getting home from Sunapee, New Hampshire, where I competed in the US Mountain Championships in the vertical race, all uphill. Tomorrow is the up and downhill race, and that's the race in the past that I would have done over the vertical because I'm much better on the downhill and technical aspects of mountain running. But my ankle doesn't permit me to do that kind of race anymore, and it's also twice as long. And considering that I haven't really been running at all, I think I've done 3 runs that would be considered runs since November, where I competed in the USA Track and Field New England Cross Country Champs, and I only showed up to that to help the team. Prior to that, I was not running. I didn't know what to expect. I did a couple test runs earlier in the week, and the results were pretty good, and I was surprised at how strong I was for uphill running, because even though the elliptical and the Bigfoot light on the treadmill and the ski training get me super fit, there's a specificity to running. There are certain muscles that work at certain angles. It's like the difference between a chin-up and a pull-up. You can probably do a lot more of one than the other, but it's a very similar motion, but just changing the positions of your hands makes a big difference. So running is not elliptical, it's not skiing, it's not treadmill, Bigfoot light. Anyway, I did not know what to expect. So my goal was to just run with the 50-plus guys for as long as I could. That was it. That was my only goal. I didn't have any expectation of results at all. And I've been competing with these guys now for well over a decade, maybe 15 years. So we all know each other. We're very friendly. I would consider them friends. 2 of them are my teammates, Todd and Steve. And so we kind of bunched together at the start line, thinking that, okay, this is a race within the race. We don't need to worry about anybody else under 50. We're just going to race against each other. And I'm just going to try to stay with them because I don't want to blow up. Now, normally I would go out really fast and just hold on, and then people would catch me, and then it's just an awful sufferfest. So the race started. It was quick. It was a long road grind, and I don't like long road grinds. It was like 13% on a dirt road, and you're just relentlessly going up, and it's not fun. But it was easier than skiing, and that's something that I found really fascinating yesterday. The burn of running is not fun, but it didn't hurt nearly as bad as skiing. So when it happened, there's this kind of repulsion, this voice of quit that shows up that says, "Ooh, this is not good, this is not good." But then I tuned in and I said, yeah, this is really uncomfortable, this is unpleasant, but this isn't as bad as skiing. My heart rate's in the low 160s at this point. If this was a ski race, I'd probably be in the mid 170s, closer to 180. So it's like, yeah, I can do this. This is fine. We're good. So I stayed with the 50-plus guys until we crested the first climb and there was a short downhill on a sandy road, and Chris from Colorado took off. And Chris had beaten us in Ireland at the World Championships. So Chris and my teammates, Todd and Steve, we all went to Ireland to compete in the Worlds. We were the U.S. team. So it's nice to have two of the best guys in the country on my team. Anyway, Chris took off, and Todd and Steve didn't go with him. And I thought, well, Chris is going to be way ahead anyway, so let him go, and I'll just run with these guys, just stay behind them. Then we got to a very, very steep technical trail, and people were power hiking. And due to the elliptical and the Bigfoot Light and skiing, my legs are super strong. So I was able to run it, and I was pretty comfortable. So I was kind of spinning my wheels behind these guys, but I didn't want to pass because I didn't know how long I could sustain this. It's like, okay, I feel good now, but how long will I feel good? It's a 4-mile climb, and we're a mile and a half in. Don't go too soon, because right now you're very close to a podium spot. Don't blow it by going too hard too early, especially considering I don't know my running fitness. So we let Chris get away, and I ran behind Todd and Steve, and it was very comfortable. Even though this section was steeper, it was about 30%, but I was able to run it pretty comfortably. Very short steps, using a lot of tendon elasticity rather than muscle. When you go into a power hike on a steep climb, you pull your glutes out because you tend to bend over, and the whole focus of the work hits the quads. You've taken your soleus and your calves out, you've taken your glutes out, you've taken your core out, and your quads just do a heck of a lot of work. So I've learned that keeping my glutes underneath me and my waist straight and just bouncing on my toes, I can use tendon elasticity, and I get to use my core, my shoulders, because you're driving your body when you're upright, but when you're bending over, your arms don't do that. So anyway, I was kind of cruising behind them, and then we got towards the summit of that technical section. It was really hard to pass, by the way. And Todd took off, and Steve didn't go with him. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and Todd was getting further and further ahead. We couldn't see Chris anymore. He was quite a ways ahead. And finally, there was a spot that was wide enough, and I thought, I don't know, I think we're probably getting close to the end of the race, and I think there's a long ski slope at the finish, so I'll catch Todd there. But maybe I need to get around Steve now. So I pushed, and I'm a great technical runner. The rocks, the roots, I love it. I'm not afraid of it, and it's a dance for me. I really love it. That's my forte. I'm a better trail runner than I am a mountain runner. So pretty quickly I put 10 seconds on Steve. I just started flying, and I was reeling Todd back in. And then suddenly we're on the ski slope, and I thought, okay, I think we have a kilometer to go. I'll just slowly reel Todd back in, and then we'll fight for second place on the podium. But we rounded a corner, and there was the finish line. It's like, crap. I didn't have enough time. There's not enough trail left. So Chris won, but he was only a little over a minute ahead. Todd was a little bit ahead of me. Steve, I think, was 9 seconds behind me. So I got the bronze medal. Super pumped to be on a podium without run training. It's just, it's exciting. Not in an identity kind of way. There's no pride there. It's more that I'm excited about the fact that I don't have a training plan anymore. I don't really set goals anymore. I just have curious experiments. I don't push myself. In the race I did. Well, I kind of pushed myself. I was pretty conservative. But it's just exciting to see that I can just randomly do lots of volume in many different places and domains without ever really trying to get fit, without adhering to a plan or a time of day or a particular amount that I have to do in any one time, but just kind of randomly, gently working my way into it. And to get on the podium at a national championship and to just be a tiny bit behind second place. But had I not stayed behind Steve and Todd, I think I may have challenged Chris for the gold, and I don't know. He may have gone faster if I was there, so I'm not saying that that would have happened. He may have turned around and saw that we were fading and then just kind of cruised himself. That's a real possibility, because Chris is an extraordinary athlete. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's the possibility that I could have given him a run for his money without run training and without a plan, and just kind of experimenting my way through and having lots of just gentle touching of movement. So that's a huge success. Again, you know, it's fun to think about being on the podium, but then when it actually happens, it's like, okay, this experimental stuff, this gentle stuff, it works, and I enjoy the process. I don't feel like, oh, I need to relax now. I've been pushing so hard to get ready for this race. I didn't get ready for the race. There basically was no preparation at all. So it's not like I'm relieved. It's now more like, oh, what experiment do I want to try next? Where do I want to point my focus next? That's the exciting thing. My legs are kind of beat up, not from the uphill, but because I ran down. It was a cluster, the race organizing. Oh my God, it was terrible. We were all soaking wet at the top of the mountain. You had to ride a chairlift down. There were high winds. It was raining. The drop bags got wet. It was hard to find your drop bags because they had tiny little numbers on them. They were all the same color, and there were no volunteers helping, and it's raining. Some people never found their drop bags, so they're in a singlet and shorts on top of a mountain, rain that's near freezing coming down, and now you've got to sit on a chairlift and get blown by the wind and soaking wet. And it was awful. In addition to waiting 45 minutes in line to get my number and nearly getting hypothermia. Yeah, disastrous in that sense. But I ran down the mountain because I didn't want to sit on the chairlift because I was pretty cold and wet. So I ran down and fell on my butt a couple times, which was not fun. Hit the back of my head. But my legs are kind of beat up from running down because I was just trying to get down quick to avoid hypothermia. So my legs are a bit torn from the eccentric loading of the downhill, which is good because now my legs are going to adapt to that and I'll be stronger next week. Anyway, long story, but it's exciting to see that what I'm doing isn't just a pipe dream, but it actually works. Yeah, so I'm going to keep going, keep evolving, keep experimenting, and point my lens at some other big race in the future. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but whatever it is, it'll be fun. Okay. I have slowly stepped my way into my roller skiing clothing and boots, and I'm going to walk outside and put my skis on and see what happens. Just finishing up my first roller ski since the crash in September, and it was a little shaky at first. Roller ski balance is not ski balance, it's pretty different, so I just went around the parking lot for a bit just to try to get my stability, and then went out on the road after maybe 15 minutes, working on the Kruger poling and leg drive, and feeling a huge difference from my roller ski technique last year already on day one. So I'm excited to keep working on that. It's harder on roller skis. It's more muscular than it is on snow. I'm not sure why, but I'm feeling the effort in a way that I wasn't just a week and a half, 2 weeks ago on snow. Anyway, yeah, I'm good. I'm excited for roller skiing now. This first ski was a difficult step. I had a lot of underlying fear. Like, not conscious fear, but just kind of an instinctual fear. Yeah, unconscious. But we made it through. We're good. Another week is in the books, and another national championship is in the rearview mirror. Now I get to relax and focus on celebrating my Sammy Hagar birthday, which happens next week. For those of you that don't know Sammy Hagar, he was independent, then part of Van Halen. And one of his famous songs was I Can't Drive 55.
Well, I turn 55 this coming week. And interestingly, had the national championships been next weekend, I would have been in a different age group, 55 to 59, and I would have won the gold medal. So I was the oldest person in my age group. Anyway, yeah, that would have been fun. So a week later, and I'd have a gold instead of a bronze. But yeah, new age group, new American records to go after. Maybe I'm still thinking about the mile. I'd still like to get the American record for 50 and over for the mile. Get that back. I had it in 2019 and then lost it. But I'd like to not just get the 55 and over record, which I think is 4:49, but I'd like to go down to 4:39, which would give me the over 50 record, because now it sits at 4:40. And I ran a 4:41 in 2019. Anyway, that's a fun potential goal to put in front of me. And I don't need to do a lot of running for the mile. In fact, in 2019, I barely did any. I was doing my Bigfoot walks and ellipticals, but a lot of the Bigfoot walking. And I promise next week I will show you what my Bigfoot walk looks like. I promise I will make it happen. So maybe the mile is the thing that I focus on heading into spring and summer in addition to ski training. Yeah, that could be a fun project, a 4:39 mile. Anyway, it was kind of a mellow week of strength training. I did some days of big pull-ups, but other than that, I didn't want to do too much because of the championship yesterday. I didn't want to be too heavy. And that was one of the limiting factors yesterday, just the weight of my arms. My shoulders get tired now, but keeping my glutes underneath me and tightening my core took some of that pressure away, and that allowed me to deal with the tired shoulders. But I didn't want to do too much prior to the race. So I'm gonna head home now, have a late dinner, salad plus something else, don't know yet, and listen to Trickster Makes This World by Lewis Hyde. So far, so good. I finished The Upside of Uncertainty, back and forth to the race. They superficially understand uncertainty and the value of living in the midst of uncertainty, like my experimental life, but they just have a superficial understanding, and they didn't really go deep enough for that book to have much value. But there was a few things I took notes on. But Trickster Makes This World, good stuff in there so far, so I'm excited to get into the car and listen to more of that. Anyway, I'm gonna say goodbye now and get excited for a birthday week of celebration. See you in the next one.